You've got a friend in me.
All right, welcome back to the podcast. I have the man, Mr. Logan Lee. People that don't know Mr. Logan Lee, he's not a coach, but he knows sports well enough to compete with us coaches.
I know some stuff.
We went to grade school, middle school, and high school together. We played basketball together in grade school too, didn't we?
We did. Played basketball and baseball together, and we go way back, you and I.
Way back. Logan used to try to dunk on us back in the day.
Still do.
Still do, and just the thought of it, I'm pulling my hammy just thinking about it.
Give me that 8-foot rim.
God, I need a 6-foot rim. I'm 6'5". I need a 6-foot rim. Like, I'm not kidding. My ankle pops all. Oh, I'm getting old.
Don't remind me. I'm right there with you, man.
God, I'm 30 right now.
I'm close. I'm not much far behind you, man. You just turned 30. You only got about a month in.
Don't do it.
I got about 4 months. So
it's a trap. Good God, we're 30 years old.
I know, it's crazy, man. It's crazy just thinking about, like, you know, graduating high school and stuff, and thinking about where I'd be when I turned 30. And I don't know what I would have told you. Would it be where I'm at now? Who knows? Probably I wouldn't have thought, you know, where I'm at now. But life comes at you fast and changes some things up on you. So,
well, pandemic did it for a lot of people. And who saw that coming? And who knew?
Not me.
March 13th.
Not me, man.
March 13th, they said go home for 2 weeks. And I said, okay, you know. And then Illinois shut it down for a month. And I was like, there's no way this goes on till the summer. There's no way that we're sitting here right now in December. Like, this is still going on. And here we are. It's December and COVID's still around. And
I wouldn't have thought, man. It was a crazy few months, especially right off the bat for me. But yeah, here we are. I wouldn't have thought back then we'd be here now still, but nothing's predictable at this point.
You never thought Steve would start a podcast and you'd be sitting on this. You never thought that's where you would end up.
Steve, I am honored to be on your podcast. I've been following your podcast for a while. Admittedly, I don't listen to every show, but I like what you're doing. And I'm honored to be a guest, to be a contributor. Maybe one day I will live up to the co-host title that you've bestowed on Mr. West and Mr. Miller, but we'll make our way to that level. We're not there yet.
Oh, the door's open. I don't care. This is not professional.
I'll make sure it's written up in my contract.
Oh, yeah, because I always tell I have to pay Brad an applesauce now. Like, if Brad ever listens to this, I have to pay him an applesauce. Nathan just wants to be there, so he does it for free. It's pretty cheap. I don't know what to get you.
We'll work it out. It out.
I never would have thought back in high school, like, Steve, you're going to do a podcast when you're 30. No, I'm not. Here I am.
We didn't know what podcasts were. That wasn't even a thing 10 years ago.
No, and like Joe Rogan, he did it in 2009, and I don't even remember that being a thing.
It was early. Joe Rogan and, you know, like the Bill Simmonses of the world. I mean, those people they were early on the podcast train. But no, I would never expected it. But I like what you're doing.
Well, some of it was the pandemic. Like, it took it away, and then it brought it back.
Right.
Because I wanted, like, what me and Brad and Nathan are doing, that's what I was going to do. And then, like I told you, but I'm going to say it on here because recording was, it brought it back because another coach got it. And I was like, I got to catch up with this guy because he was going way. This other coach, I created a monster. I take credit for his podcast. I created a monster. Every day he tweets like, oh, I just had 2 people recorded. I'm like, good Lord. Like,
yeah,
I have to schedule around here. We have a little office here. We have to schedule who's going to use what. So I have to work. We would like it's different schedules.
Yeah, no, I applaud you for doing it. It's something I've always thought about doing, but just never really did it. Was never really sure what I would talk about. But you know, you've given me the opportunity to go on. So, you know, I'm happy to be here.
It's tough because, like I said, I made it sport. I wanted it sports, but then it turned into football. And then I saw that I only had, that's all it could be was football.
Right.
And so when I changed it to this new logo and stuff, one, I stole Joe Rogan's look, but that's fine.
He doesn't need to know.
He doesn't need to know. He wants to sue me. That's fine. He won't sue me. He's got enough
What's he
money.
gonna sue you for?
I was gonna have 2 podcasts. I was gonna have the one for football or whatever, and then one for like anything. And I was like, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of focus.
I like what you're doing.
Let me change it to the Coach Steve Show and just open the door up. If it's football and people want to listen to it because it's football, they can. If they want to listen to this, where we talk about sports and movies and entertainment, they can listen.
I like it. I like the idea.
Because one day when I finally get to like 100 listeners an episode, hopefully, then we will. I think my highest listen one is like 85, so it's moving. But
Wow. We'll get there.
that's one episode. It takes like my problem is I release 3 a week, so they have to catch up.
Yeah,
So that's my
it's a
problem.
lot. It can be a lot for people. I get it.
So
I get it.
people that don't know, Logan may not coach, but he knows a lot about sports. Worked in sports.
Yeah.
You wrote for sport, like wrote for papers. You
Yeah.
worked for the big Danville Dans. Are they even still there?
Moved my way up in the world. Yeah, the Dans are still there, but of course, I mean, with the pandemic, who knows what 2021 in the professional sports world will look like. But yeah, the Dans are still there. They're still functioning. Jeannie Cook's still there. She loves it. I talk to her a few times a year, and that's really definitely where I got started in this world, and kind of taken me different places across the country. And no, I've never been a coach, and I didn't really play sports that long. Really stopped playing sports in like junior high, but it's been a part of my life for all of my life, and up until recently it was my profession. So it's kind of been crazy. I never really thought, we were talking about high school and stuff, I never would have thought that I would be where I was, but it's been a fun ride for me so far.
Yeah, I've been to Fithian a few times since moving to Chicago, but I haven't driven into Danville. Like I just go to Fithian, and that's where I go. I don't do anything. Maybe Champaign. So that's why I was asking. Like I have not, because someone told me there's Dunkin' Donuts in Danville and stuff. Now I was like, wait a minute, hold on a second.
There's a Dunkin' Donuts now. There's a Dunkin' Donuts at the gas station in Oakwood too.
Let me rephrase. I've been to Oakwood. I saw there's like 8 gas stations.
Yeah, there's a lot of gas stations. That's all Oakwood has anymore. But yeah, the Dans are still there, and that's where I got my start. And then from there, I spent a summer in Florida working in baseball, and then I've been up in South Bend now for 5 years. So, I had to get out of it because of the pandemic. Just from a financial standpoint, who knows what the future will bring. But yeah, sports have definitely been a huge part of my life and huge part of my family's life and all that stuff. So it's been fun.
Now, what did you tell people that listen? You worked for the minor league Cubs team.
Yeah. I as you mentioned, the Dans, I started there, the Danville Dans, the college summer league team. I did that a few summers while I was in high school and college. And then after I graduated, I went to school to do broadcasting. I mean, so, going back to the podcasting stuff we were talking about earlier, had we talked about this down the road, it'd probably been more like I was doing the radio stuff, you would come on my podcast, that type of stuff. And now kind of roles are reversed. But that's what I went to school to study. And then I eventually got out of that and started working because of the Dans, really. I started doing more interested more in working in sports and working in the front offices of, different teams and stuff. So after college, I did an internship in Daytona, Florida with the Cubs affiliate at the time then. That was honestly one of the best summers of my life, as a Cubs fan, growing up a Cubs fan, and then going down there. And that was that year alone. Javi Baez, Chris Bryant, Jorge Soler, Carl Edwards, all came through Daytona while I was there. So got to see them win a championship for that league. That was really cool experience. And now to see them, win a World Series, and now who knows what the Cubs are going to look like in 2021, but to be part of that was cool. And then I took a summer off from that, and then I've been up in South Bend. I was working for the Cubs minor league team here since the 2015 seasons, as long as they've been the Cubs affiliate up until this most recent year when kind of things change on me. So but yeah, it's been all baseball for me pretty much since college and up until now.
Yeah, I forgot you did the radio thing for Southern, right? You did the basketball game.
Yep, I did. because as I said, that was what my focus was originally. And then after I graduated, I did the summer in Daytona, and then I was trying to find other baseball jobs, but I wasn't really finding much. I ended up going back to Southern, and I was doing radio for the women's basketball team. I did some softball. I did some men's basketball, baseball, but primarily women's basketball for a season on the radio, traveled with the team. I'm still upset, not upset, but still bothers me a little bit that was the one season they didn't go anywhere fun. They go to, Mexico or Florida or all these other trips, for tournaments or whatever for, 2 or 3, 4 days. And that season we went to Conway, Arkansas and Huntington, West Virginia. And that was about the extent of it. So, but yeah, did that stuff for a year. And then after that ended up when I ended up coming up to South Bend. So
it wasn't like where Brad was a cheerleader and they went to Old Miss and he got to go to Old Miss.
No, we didn't go women's basketball. We went to Champaign. We did go to they played one game in Champaign. So, yes, that was a big game, a big time opponent for them. But that was also like my home. So like wasn't anywhere exciting. It was cool. I got to see my family for a weekend or whatever, but wasn't anything, some extravagant trip like some of the other teams usually do.
Yeah, how many times have we been to the Assembly Hall? I'm going to say Assembly Hall. I don't care if it's the State Farm Center.
Yes.
Assembly Hall.
A lot. Not recently, though. I was really looking forward to this year. When everything happened with the pandemic last season, and then as we get closer to it and they start announcing things when Io came back and Kofi came back, and then I was excited about the chance of having Illinois Duke at the State Farm Center what would be tomorrow. Like I was excited about that opportunity. Like if there were any tickets available to the public, I was jumping on that immediately. And I was driving down there, driving the 3 hours just to go to that game. But of course, that's not happening. They're still going to play. They're going to play in, at Cameron, and hopefully they win. But I was excited about the opportunity to go potentially. But no, I haven't been to their State Farm Center very often anymore. So I go to quite a few Notre Dame games, though, since I'm up here. Not a big Notre Dame fan necessarily, especially football. Never really jumped on the Notre Dame football train, but the last few years since Illinois hasn't been as good, I've kind of followed Notre Dame basketball a little bit. So it's been kind of fun to go to those games and stuff since I've been here.
I want to go there so bad to a game.
I still haven't been to a football game at Notre Dame. I've been here for however long. But I mean, to be honest though, with you, the first few years I was going back and going to Cameron's games. My brother was playing at Illinois State, and then, he did the NFL thing for a year. And so like, that's, my baseball season ended, right at the beginning of football season. So I didn't really see my family at all during the summertime, maybe like once or twice. So pretty much most every weekend during the fall, I was going to Normal, or I was Cameron's junior and senior year. I went to a lot of his games on the road. So those first few years, that's honestly why for the most part, but still I've been here for now 5 or 6 years and I still haven't been to a football game. I've been to hockey. Notre Dame hockey games are a blast. Been to basketball, both men's and women's. Those are both a blast. Been to a baseball game when Valparaiso was playing here. Casey Fletcher's coaching for Valpo. I went and chatted with him for a while at one of their games. So, but yeah, still haven't been to a football game. One day I will, though, for sure.
They're really expensive, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not cheap.
At Charleston, the first coach I worked for, Coach Hogan, he lives in Macon County by Decatur in Mount Zion.
Yep.
Big Notre Dame fan, and he goes all the time. But he gets tickets cheaper because his family is whatever. Yeah. He wanted to take me one time, and something happened. I couldn't. I was so mad. And then he also offered us to go with him and his wife. They're Dallas Cowboys fans. They go every year. His wife's family's in Dallas. They go to the Thanksgiving game all the time. And we were going to go like 2 years ago.
Wow.
And then something happened financially because he was going to pay for a lot of it. And we're not comfortable with that. Like, you're going to pay for the tickets, like drive down with them or whatever. Right. But almost went to that too. So like, it's nice to have connections to that. But like, Notre Dame want to go so bad. Brad hates Notre Dame. So I've become more of a Notre Dame fan to piss him off.
Yeah.
And
I've never really. No, that'd be cool. No, I've never really become a Notre Dame fan for football, especially, but I'd be down to go. We can definitely look into it if there's a fans next season, who knows, but But yeah, hockey games are here a blast. And I was never a hockey guy. Growing up, we didn't really have, people were, I guess, kind of Blackhawks fans, but really where we were, nobody was really hockey fans. I remember going to like some of the Wings games, and like my cousin played for the Champaign, youth team. So I would go see him play and stuff. That was really the extent of my hockey experience. I still haven't even been to an NHL game, but Notre Dame hockey games are a blast. Like, they're a fun time. It's a really nice arena, and they do a good time. It's just a really well done, like, show, like, from an entertainment standpoint, other than like the game itself. It's definitely a good time.
Yeah. People that don't know, we didn't have hockey unless there was a travel team.
Yeah, no. The Danville Wings were a thing.
Oh yeah,
when we were growing up, because they had the Pizza Hut thing. I think we could get like tickets through like reading it through Pizza Hut. I don't know. There was something. I remember that. I remember I went to some games, but we went there. They had something during the day. Do you remember this? I assume you were there. I don't know. But there was something. We went to the Civic Center for some sort of thing during the day. I'm sure it was a bunch of schools, because we got like little pucks or something. I remember that like a little bit.
Yeah, because then Eastern Illinois does that with basketball. Like, there's a day where the schools can come. They paid like $5 to come in or something.
Right. And I don't know if it was a game or not, but and we do that. South Bend, obviously that's a big minor league baseball thing too, is to do day games, during the school year that you bring in, we would do that here in South Bend. We bring in 6,000 students 3 times a year, in April and May, and sell out those games. Because otherwise on a Tuesday and Wednesday in May, you're not going to get more than 1,000 people there. But we would bring in 6,000 kids, and they would be screaming their mouths off. It was nuts. You play a bunch of SpongeBob, but yeah, that was really all the hockey I knew. But coming up here, it's been fun to do that.
My mom watched the Blackhawks, but then I've been to 2 Blackhawks games. Oh really? My goodness. I've been to 2 Bears games, 2 Blackhawks games, and a few Cubs, and 1 Bulls. The best has been the Blackhawks.
I've heard that. Yeah.
They are into the game, and they're not mean about it. Like, the Bears fans are drunk, number one.
Yep.
I've seen like the new part that was built on Soldier Field. We went there when Jay Cutler was there, so I got to see him play. I miss Jay Cutler now.
Yeah.
But so there was levels.
We don't have to get on that.
Well, they played Detroit, and they lost to Detroit like 16-14 that year. That was when Jay had like hurt his ankle. It was after the Packers thing, but he hurt his ankle. The Lions fans and Bears fans were arguing with each other, and we could see this happening. They have like 10 empty cups, so they're drunk, and you're on the levels, bleachers or the concrete, they're levels. And I'm like, we got to go. One of the Bears fans took the Lions fans, threw him off the thing, and fell over the thing, just threw him. And then we're leaving, and you have to walk down this path from Soldier Field. Like you walk down that path to get underneath the bridge and go back to the street to get to the train. And there's just Lions fans on top of these hills yelling stuff at us. Police on horses had to come and block Bears fans from going to get them.
Wow.
So that stuff happens.
Yeah.
Blackhawks games, people are drinking, but they're like into the game. Like, people were talking to us about strategy. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, the whole time. I'm like, and they're into it. It's packed. And the atmosphere is fantastic. And we've gone twice. That was like, we had to go twice. We went the first time, and then like a year or two, like, we got to go again. Because I can't on TV. It's hard to watch, but in person, it's easier to watch.
It's fun. As I said, I haven't been to an NHL game. I had one my freshman year of college. I think that was the Blackhawks' first championship run. Mm-hmm. A bunch of my friends were going to, because they were playing Nashville. Might have been even in the Stanley Cup Finals. I don't remember. But they played Nashville, and a bunch of my friends were going down, like bought tickets and went down to the game. And I was going to go. I even had a ticket purchased, I think, but I ended up giving it to one of my friends or something because I had something else going on, or he wanted to go more. I don't know. But other than that, that was my only time that I even almost went to an NHL game. But Notre Dame hockey games, they're a fun time.
Yeah, if we ever go back to normal and people are comfortable going, that's the next thing. You could have fans, you got to be comfortable going. I don't know if I would. Like, a part of me says yes, just to be defiant of like, I'm going to go. But then there's that part of me that's like, some jackass around me is going to have it or take the mask off. And
for the most part, I haven't really left my house. since March, other than to go get groceries or go to Lowe's or Menards or something like that. I've been home a few times, but there was like one span of about a week where I did multiple things like that I hadn't done all year, and I did them all in like the span of like 6 days. I went to Nathan Burke. We did his bachelor party for his wedding, and we did it at Top Golf down in Indy. So we did that, and then we went go-karting. So I did that on a Saturday. And then the very next day I drove all the way down to Holiday World, in which went to Holiday World with my friend Devin. And then like a few days later was when Tenet came out. So that's the only time I've been in a movie theater since March. You know, I'm usually at the movies like 50 times a year. And but so yeah, those 3 things I pretty much did in like the span of like 6 days. Other than that, I haven't left the house. I don't see anybody. I don't come in contact with anybody. So, you know, going to sporting events are going to be strange when that's even a possibility again. So one day we'll get there.
Like Notre Dame, they're allowing fans, but you have to prove that. Yeah, you have, if you are with people, you have to prove that you live together, or they won't let you sit by each other.
Right.
Unless you beat Clemson, then you can run onto the field.
Yeah, don't get me started on that. I know a few people that have been able to go to the games. They either work on campus or, you know, something along those lines. So every state's different. Every campus is different. You know, every governing body is doing things their own way, and I get it. I mean, there's, you know, every area is different, so it is what it is. But
nobody would go to an Illinois game anyway, football, so it doesn't matter.
No. Basketball, though.
Basketball, they might sell out.
They would go. They would be selling out every single basketball game.
Like
although they never really had issues. Well, they haven't had as many issues selling out basketball games as they have as football games. But that's
like you said. Could you imagine Duke coming into Champaign right now?
Dude,
like
oh man,
that sellout.
I'm already excited for the game, but just imagine if it was not in a pandemic and they were coming to Champaign. I would probably have dropped like $200 at least just to get in that arena tomorrow night.
And they're recruiting for you. They're recruiting for U of I because that Duke game is going to be everywhere on TV.
I know.
It's Duke. That recruiting
it's Duke,
for Illinois.
And it's a top 10 matchup. And oh man, can't wait.
And I love Brad Underwood. He's like, I want to schedule Baylor again. Too. Like he wants to do that. And like,
bring it on, man. I saw that. There was people because Mike Bray, Notre Dame's coach, was tweeting about it that they were looking for somebody to play. So people kept tweeting about, you know, those 2 teams matching up. I'm not sure why they didn't. But yeah, I know teams are looking to schedule matchups all the time. So I love the idea of let's do Baylor again. Baylor's the better team. I mean, I wasn't like totally shocked that Illinois didn't win that game. I wish they would have got a little bit more from their 2 best players who were fairly non-existent for most of that game, but it is what excuse me. It is what it is. I mean, they'll have their chance. Duke's their chance. Duke's going to be a good matchup for them, though.
Yeah, I think they'll beat Duke though. Baylor, I think Duke and Illinois are going to be more fundamentally sound. Baylor just has athleticism where if you turn the ball, they're going to go score.
Baylor's good and Baylor's deep.
And so, I don't know. Like
I was thinking about it the other day. I don't know the last time Illinois has had just an athletic, physical specimen that can just run the floor on a fast break and just throw it down on the other end of the floor. I just don't. Illinois just doesn't recruit those kind of players. You know, I mean, Brandon Paul was that kind of player, I guess. I mean, yeah, sure, Io's great, but I mean, that's not the type of player that I'm envisioning. You know, like some of these other, like Baylor has that, and some of these other schools are going to have that. But
like we haven't been this excited since 2004.
It's been 15 years, man. And
me and Nathan and Brad talked about it. Underwood's got that Illinois connection. Like he's trying to get Chicago kids. He's trying to keep people here.
He's trying.
And
I get
whereas
it.
Lovie Smith doesn't have that. Like
no,
because we're talking
Illinois
football.
The football situation's a mess.
They need to hire Monken, but that's just me. Or the whole Coastal Carolina staff. That's what they need to do.
Yeah, I heard you say that on your show the other day.
We need to bring mullets to Champaign. That's what needs to happen.
Yeah, okay.
Or Nathan's best. Nathan tweeted this. Me, Brad, and Nathan are in a group text. Oh my goodness. I can't reveal what happens on there. It's just mainly me and Nathan. Brad works his
Yeah.
butt off. And he said, so Brad works like a dungeon. So he said that when he leaves, he gets all the texts at one time and they're out of order. So he doesn't know what's going on. Me
Yeah.
and Nathan are bitching about something. He said, Illinois, hire Ron Zook back and apologize. And I was like, okay.
That's one way to look at it.
Well, because like Illinois hadn't beat Iowa football since 2008. And who was the head coach in 2008? It was Ron Zook.
Yeah. No, I get it.
But we did beat Ohio State this year. That's all that matters.
Yes.
We didn't play.
If you want to look at it that way. We didn't lose.
You probably heard that when Brad said it. He goes, we beat Ohio State. The Illini Buck is back in Champaign. And I was like, okay.
Okay. Keep telling yourself that.
And then my next podcast by myself, I was like, yeah, Illinois won. I'm going with it. They finally did it.
They didn't lose.
They didn't lose. But no, Illinois basketball is finally back, and I'm excited. I haven't cared about college basketball for 2 years. Like, I haven't really watched it.
Yeah.
I've kept tabs on it. But with doing the podcast and all that, I have to watch it more. And I'm so glad. It's so exciting. I watched like Georgetown and West Virginia yesterday.
Yeah.
West Virginia is pretty good too.
There's
They're
a lot
under
of
the
good teams
radar.
out there, man. There's a lot of good teams. I'm excited for this Duke game. This will be a good test for him. And then the conference season starts pretty much right away. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a dogfight. Just got to stay healthy.
I was scheduling podcasts and I was like, what is going on this week where I can't do something on Tuesday? And I was like, oh, yeah. Well, at first, when we were going to do this, I thought it was tonight for some reason. And I was like, oh, thank God it's tomorrow.
Tomorrow. 9:30. Not quite as, 9:30 for me, Eastern time. Not quite as bad as that 10 o'clock start last week, but.
I didn't go to bed till like midnight or so. I'm getting old, and those poor kids on Zoom the next day.
I bet.
Because I was tired. Illinois got their butts kicked at the end there, and I was like, see, I told you we're going to jump down some rabbit holes, and I don't care.
Let's do it. Let's keep jumping.
So,
keep jumping.
What all positions did you do for your minor league team? Did you do a little bit of everything?
My first year when I was in Daytona, their internship program was set up where you do a little bit of everything, which was nice because you got a good taste of what you like, what you don't like. So like that season, every homestand would be different. So one homestand, you would be working in the box office selling tickets, and one homestand you'd be in the kitchen helping with serving for picnics, picnic food. And one homestand you might be in the concession stand, or you might be in the press box, or you might be helping out with promotions, marketing. It just kind of depends. So every homestand was different. So by the end of the season, we start that. It's a little different now. The structure of minor league baseball internships are a little different. But when I was there was like 15 interns. And by the end of the summer, after people, because we were like, it was a mix of, people that were a couple years out of school and people that were still in school and people that had just graduated school. So by the end of the summer, there was only like 6 or 7 of us left. And you kind of got a feel for like what you really liked and what you didn't. And I really kind of fell into box office and ticketing and that type stuff. So then when I approached, South Bend, I knew a guy that was up here that I knew from Southern. And I reached out to him, and he put me in touch with the person that ran the box office. So when I started up in South Bend, I was strictly box office. I was working with ticket reports and selling tickets and managing a box office staff and that type stuff. And then that was what I did that season. And then after that season ended, I became full-time sales. And what I really liked about that job was it was 2 different jobs for 6 months at a time. So during the season, it was, so your season runs from April through August or early September, mid-September. So for those 6 or so months, it was 9 a.m. till 11 o'clock at night. You're setting up groups, you're reaching out to clients, you're just doing a little bit of everything. You're helping out, you're pulling tarp, you might be helping out in the concession stand. You might be, I also helped out with like marketing and social media and promotions and that type of stuff. So that's what it was for 6 straight months. And then once the season ends, we shifted over to just a 9 to 5 sales. So, it was, you get your nights and your weekends back. You're on the phones, you're going out and meet with people trying to sell tickets, get them, booked for the next season, and then starts over again. So, throughout my 6 or 7 years working in minor league baseball, I've kind of dipped my toe into a lot. I mean, it's been primarily ticket sales and event planning and that type stuff. But yeah, it's been box office, it's been promotions, it's been marketing, it's been social media. Yeah, you kind of help out with everything. A lot of tarp poles. Oh my God, it rains so much in Central Florida. So every day, like clockwork, at like 3:00, rain. And so we had a terrible field, and we lost so many games that year. I remember like there was one particular homestand where I don't remember what it was, but we had like a 6-game homestand, and like 4 of them got rained out. It was awful. And then by the end of it, I said, screw this. I'm going to Disney World. And I got in my car after that night, and I had a friend who was in town staying at the resort or something, or at Universal or whatever. And I just drove over there. I'm like, I'm done. Like, I need to do something else because this has been awful. So, but yeah, you do a little bit of everything when you work in minor league baseball for sure.
So it may not be awful for you. So when I was doing sports management for school, a lot of internships that they would tell you would have to go do, not have to, but what ends up happening is it's ticket sales, because for sports management, it's you want to work for the Bulls, you want to work for the Bears, you want to work for the University of Illinois.
Yeah.
And that scared a lot of people away because ticket sales is not fun.
Yeah.
So
sales
how does that work? Like,
sales is the entry point for a lot of industries. And sports is a large part of that too. I mean, that's an entry point for a lot of things. Because that's what the most jobs are, like in South Bend, we had, the last few seasons, we had a full staff of about 20 people, and about 6 or 7 of us are salespeople, like ticket sales primarily. And then there's like there's 1 or 2 people that work on the field, and there's like 1 or 2 people that work promotions or, video stuff. And there's like a finance person, but like there's 5 or 6 sales people that are specifically for that, because those are the people that are bringing in the money. And so that's, they're okay with that as long as you have a bigger staff. And every organization's different. Every organization is ran different. They have a different strategy when it comes to tickets. I know a lot of organizations don't really focus on season tickets. We did. I mean, that was a big focus for what South Bend does. But when I was in Florida, that's a lot of tourists. So you're not, you do have season ticket holders. You do have locals that are coming out to the games regularly, but so much of that traffic is people that are just coming in town for the week. They're, they might be, going to the beach, or they're, in Orlando, just like an hour drive. They might be going to Universal or Disney, and they might just be looking for something to do on a different night. They might just go to the beach for the day and then go to a baseball game. So you have a lot of that. So every market's different and how they do it. But sales is the way to get into sports. You have to start at the bottom somewhere, and sales is usually the way to do it. And it can, minor league baseball is not a great example of this, but it can be profitable for you, from an individual standpoint. If you're looking for a job that's going to pay you fairly decent. Minor league baseball gets bad rap because it's not exactly the highest paid industry, for good reason. But you can look out and get in good situations at some of the higher levels. And even South Bend wasn't bad. We were pretty successful pretty much since I started in 2015. That's where things took off. That's when they became the Cubs affiliate. We're only an hour and 30 minutes from downtown Chicago. So, this is major Cubs territory here. And so when we became the Cubs affiliate in 2015, everything just kind of skyrocketed there. And then you have the playoff team in 2015, you have the World Series in 2016. So we just kind of fed off that energy. And, so it worked really well for us. But every situation is different. You just kind of have to be able to roll with the punches with what you got.
Because I couldn't do sales. I can't say, give me money for this.
It's not for everybody. And I will admit it's never been my favorite thing. But I'm pretty good at the building the relationships part of things. And that's what a lot of it is. It's just building relationships. And you just kind of have to roll with it and do what you can and be good at what you can. And, just kind of do it. But sales is the avenue. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm still doing sales. It's just a different industry at this point because of COVID and everything. But you just kind of have to roll with it, and just good at building the relationships and maintaining your relationships too. That's obviously a large part of what you're doing.
You're more outgoing than I am. You can do that. This podcast is the extent. You could say that. This podcast is the extent of me being social.
You're doing great though.
unless it's
You can
coach.
see, I told you though, I was going to get dark in here because the lack of lighting. So that's about as good as we're going to get. I told you it's going to get dark.
Again,
But
I'm
at
not
least
Joe Rogan.
I have the ambiance behind me. So
I'm not Joe Rogan where I need to make $100 million.
One day you'll have a studio. And
If I am 2% of Joe Rogan, I'm good. Like I told you in the text, I was like, this is Joe Rogan's sports side. Like I don't care.
I got you. One day you'll be the next Rogan.
You know what's funny?
What other rabbit holes you want to go down?
Well, it's funny. I was talking to a coach and I said, I listened to Joe Rogan throughout the years, but I never really like followed it or listened because it was just smoking weed and talking. I'm like, well, that's fine. Since the pandemic, I'm watching him. I'm watching it like a football coach. I'm figuring out how is he so good at podcasting?
Yeah.
Because we can't coach. So I have to do something. And I was like, I'm watching this as I'm watching football film. It's weird.
Yeah.
And I figured out he just talks.
That's all it is, man. It's just conversations.
Like
I would
coach like the coaches I type stuff up of what I'm going to talk about and I'd have it in front of me. Then I'm watching him. He has his coffee next to him and that's all he has. He's good to go.
Well, I'm sure when he started, he had more bullet points and stuff too. But I listen and watch some of his stuff, and a lot of them are the same. I'm being like Bill Simmons is the same way, and he's another one that kind of was early on the podcast game, and he's one that I kind of listen to and watch every once in a while. And they're just conversations, and I've heard him even say like he doesn't have notes, like he doesn't, he interviews athletes and celebrities and movie stars all the time, and just like Rogan, like he doesn't have notes. He might have a bullet point or two, things that he definitely wants to touch on, especially if the person that he's interviewing is trying to push something. A lot of the times that's how they get their guests is people that are on, media circuses. And, I know like Matthew McConaughey was doing his rounds and stuff. So like sometimes with those people, you have to have bullet points because they require them, as a part of your contract to do this interview. Like you have to touch on this new movie they're promoting. But other than that, I mean, they're just having conversations.
Well, and then like, you listen to Bill Simmons more than I do, but he and Rogan are pretty smart dudes. Like, yeah, I'm going to talk Rogan for because that's all I've been doing. Like, if I go to the gym and I'm on the elliptical, that's all I do is watch. They're taking it off YouTube because he's going to Spotify. Yeah, because Spotify, they're going to have this new thing where you can make videos. So it's taken away from YouTube.
That makes sense.
So like, unless your phone's,
it makes sense.
For me, if I have the Bluetooth on, Spotify won't show the video. But like if I pull Spotify up on the computer, it has the video with the audio.
Oh, really?
So Joe Rogan's going to be strictly Spotify. So if you look at his YouTube, it's down to like 100 videos. They're taking them off.
Yeah, that's what Simmons' Ringer stuff is too. It's all on Spotify. They're still on YouTube. I don't know how that's working. I didn't know a lot of that stuff, but yeah, that makes sense.
But Rogan is smart. Like this stuff, he'll just pull something. Now it's not like stuff maybe everybody's interested in, but like they could talk about something. And he pulls some out of his ass that I don't even know about, like this theory on this or this humanization, like something. And I'm like, how did you know that? Where do you put that in your mind? To like, I'm surprised I remember how to get to school sometimes. Like, I don't remember. They're just smart, and I'm not smart enough to know that stuff. But he and Bill Simmons can relate to everybody. Yeah, like Rogan has athletes. I just watched one with Lance Armstrong he had on in 2015. Yeah. And like, that's an interesting one. He had Candace Owens on there.
Yeah.
Candace Owens was on there. He's had Bernie Sanders was on Joe Rogan's. That's interesting. Yeah. It makes you a Bernie fan afterwards. Because Bernie right at the get-go goes, this is the longest I can describe what I want to do with my presidency because the news stations don't let me talk that long. He goes, this will give me the chance to talk. And then they're trying to he wants Trump to come on. And I said, oh, good Lord.
Good luck. Yeah, man, that's how they are. I mean, it's interviews, but it's conversations. The best ones are just, just people chatting, shooting the shit.
Is it killing you that there's no movie theaters?
Yeah, it's been hard. It's been hard. That's been my getaway, the last several years. I mean, when I wasn't at the baseball stadium, I was pretty much at a movie theater, and it's been difficult. I haven't bought my freaking popcorn bucket, man. I know I've tweeted about it about 15,000 times, but I'd never do that shit. And I bought a popcorn bucket, a year-long, an annual popcorn bucket from Cinemark, beginning of the year, and I've used it like 3 times. and it sucks.
I think the last time I went to see a movie was Endgame. I think that was the last time, and I went twice.
Over a year now. Yeah, I go a lot, and that's, as I said, that's been my getaway from the world, and just this whole thing has just been so crazy. And I watched, there was a video circulating from Endgame the other day on Twitter, and it was the reactions, of the big scene towards the end, and you could hear all the audience clapping with Mjolnir and with, Avengers Assemble and all that stuff. And like, I miss that so much. I went to see Tenet in June or July or whenever it was, and it was just me and like 4 other people. And normally, like, I'm cool with that. Like, I don't mind going, and I usually would go at, in the middle of the day sometimes, and there'd be like 4 other people in the theater, but just this whole thing with masks, and it's just weird. I mean, that's, movies are definitely changing, and movie theaters are changing, and I'm interested to see what happens now with Warner Brothers and HBO Max and all this stuff. I mean, the stuff they're announcing, and I don't know when the end of this is going to be, but it's crazy. I miss them so much, though.
Yeah, I never had a chance to go to the movies. I don't want to pay for it. I was coaching, so the only time I could go was during the day. But during the day, you don't have time. So Endgame, I made a point. I didn't go Friday night when it came out or whatever. I went the Saturday or Sunday, maybe.
Yeah.
There's a theater here in Naperville where it's only like $4 all the time. Yeah. $4 or $5 all the time. So I went, and even on that Sunday or Saturday, it was still packed.
I get it, yeah.
Because they had the same thought I did. Like, let's not. Endgame is pretty big. Let's not go. And you're right. When that stuff happened, I know when the night it came out was bigger, but when that stuff happened in the theater, you could tell we all saw it for the first time.
Yeah.
And then, like, spoilers, whoever hasn't watched Marvel ever, then the Tony Stark thing.
It's a year later.
Well, because knowing my freaking luck, the one person out of the 20 people that listen are like, what are you talking about?
Spoiler alert, we're going to talk about Endgame.
When Tony died, the kid's in there crying, and I'm like, a part of me is like, Steve, you can't cry. They're going to see you. Don't be doing this. Don't do it. And then a part of me is like, he'll come back at the end, like something will happen. Sat there through the whole credits. I'm like, oh. Like we all did. Nobody left because you're so used to the end credits. Nobody left.
They didn't have anything. Yeah.
The only thing you had was the hammer thing from the first Iron Man. That's the only thing they had.
Right.
And I had to look that up. I had to know I was like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah. No, it came out, it was actually my birthday weekend when it came out. It was the weekend of April 29th was the Monday. So it came out on like the 26th or whatever. And we had games that weekend. So, and when we have weekend games, it's always Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon. So I knew I wasn't going to be able to go Friday or Saturday. And I had reserved like 4 or 5 tickets to go Sunday evening, early evening with other people I work with. So I had that booked, ready to go for Sunday. And then Thursday night, we had a game Thursday night, and that was the actual opening. And there's 2 theaters in town here, and one of them has reserve seating, like the nice recliners and stuff, and the other one is bigger auditoriums, but it doesn't have the reserve seating and the nicer chairs and stuff. And I had the tickets I had reserved for were the nicer theater with the recliners for Sunday. But then our game on Thursday at like 3:00, it was just pouring down rain. So we ended up calling the game. So I was able to then get on to the AMC theater, the other theater in town, and snag 4 tickets to that showing. I had to get there early enough so that all 4 of us could sit together. But I ended up lucking out. I wasn't supposed to see it till Sunday that weekend, but I ended up seeing it Thursday night. And then I went again on Monday because that was my birthday, and I took the day off. And Allison and I went on Monday night as well. So yeah, that was a wicked experience. That honestly, like both Infinity War and Endgame were like 2 of the best movie theater experiences I've ever had. And I go to a lot of movies, especially the last like 4 or 5 years. Like just those 2, just like the way they ended and everything about them was just tremendous. And it's funny you say that because I saw that on Twitter today that today is the first Endgame trailer came out a year ago today. So I was watching back, and I remember thinking I had this whole, petition that I was trying to start that they shouldn't show us anything for Endgame. I didn't want to know anything. I did, like, after Infinity War ended, I didn't want to know the title because if you remember, We didn't know a title for the movie. We had no trailers. We had nothing. And I wanted nothing. I said, my thought was, people are going to go to this movie regardless of if you promote it. Like, they know what's happening. You have the biggest movie in the world, and they know there's a sequel coming out next year. You give me a date, and that's it. That's all I need.
Right.
But they eventually gave us a title, and then they rolled out a trailer, and of course everybody was still excited. Like, I wasn't not excited for it, but I was like, I was looking back on it thinking, I really kind of wish I didn't see any of this before the movie. Just like, give me the date that it comes out, and just let me go. That was my thought.
I think on Twitter today it said never trust Marvel. No, not Twitter. I saw something today. It said you can't even trust Marvel for their trailers because it went back and showed the original Infinity War trailer, and I forgot. I totally forgot. It shows
they do a lot of tricks.
Well, it showed Hulk running with them on that battlefield, and they said if you know he wasn't there.
Yep.
So it showed all the stuff, and they said they do that.
They do it all the time.
And then they showed the Endgame trailer again and showed different things they filtered in there or whatever.
Yeah, there was something. There was something in the Endgame trailer. I remember. Oh, there. Well, no. They showed in one of the Endgame trailers. They showed the scene where Captain Marvel is bringing the ship back with Tony and Gamora on it, or not Gamora, Nebula on the ship, and Natasha and Captain America and whoever else, they're walking outside as the ship's coming down. You don't see the ship in the spot in the TV trailer, but there was also like a clear spot, like that somebody was standing that they just took out of it, and it ended up being Pepper. Like she was in the actual scene, but they just take that out of the trailer. They do that stuff all the time. It's nuts. You can't trust them.
Because when Infinity War was coming out, I was so far behind because my problem was I didn't go to the movies. I was coaching all 3 sports.
You're a busy man.
I had to buy the movies, and then at some points it's just like, why even buy them? I'll just wait. Like, just hold on.
Now they're all on Disney Plus.
Now they're all on Disney Plus.
You just have to pay your monthly subscription, and you don't have to buy anything. I have this whole wall of movies here that I've been collecting over the years, and I was looking at it the other day. Like, all of these are available to me to stream whenever I want it. I don't need any of these things anymore.
At my parents' house somewhere, there's the VHS versions of these things. I'm like, oh my God, they're because they saved them. My parents saved those things, like with the original Atari's there and all that stuff. I'm like, this is all on Disney Plus now. Like, it's all right there. It looks better because they remastered it. But no, when I remember the Infinity War trailer, and I was like, I can't go watch. I'm so far behind. I was a few movies behind. So I had to wait for it to come out to watch it. And then I watched it, and I was like, okay. And then right before Endgame came out, I took time and said, I'm going to watch all the movies in order. I had to find them somewhere. I own some. I had to find them on whatever. And I don't think Disney Plus was out yet.
No, it wasn't.
Because I paid the year subscription. That was the thing during quarantine. I was like, well, let's just pay the year and see what happens.
Yeah.
And we watched all the Toy Stories. We just finished all the Pirates of the Caribbean. I never seen all of them. And but I had to go see Endgame by myself. That's why I don't go to movies. I have to be by myself. And
I don't mind going to movies by myself. I don't mind to. In fact, most of the movies I go to anymore, I go by myself. Just because it was just always easier. Like the past couple of years, you know, I'd had my job with baseball. I had my off season where I was working 9 to 5 or whatever. But Allison always worked at night because she was working at a restaurant. And so I would always just have nights to myself. So like, that's when I would go to movies. And most of the time it was just me. So I don't mind it. I've been doing that for a while now, but I get it. Like, other people don't like it, but I don't mind it. I mean, I don't love it when it's a packed theater and I'm sitting there, like I'm by myself, and there's like a bunch of other people around me. But if it's just me and 15 other people, like, I don't care.
I don't know if this is a normal thing. There's a theater up here in Lombard or Oak Brook, and it's a dine-in one.
Yeah, those are a thing.
Okay, because that was the first time.
I've never been to one, not specifically a dine-in, but I have been to other theaters that have like full-on restaurants and stuff.
Yeah, they're a thing. Yeah, because like I'm trying to remember, I think there's a bar in there, and then you walk in and you have your seat and you have this table that can pull out, and somebody comes up, you press the button, and somebody comes up and takes your order and then walks away and then brings to you.
Yeah.
Now, you want to talk about expensive? Don't get the
Well,
wings.
it ain't cheap.
Don't get the wings there.
That stuff's not cheap, but you know what? And people talk about how expensive movie theater snacks are and stuff all the time. And I get it. I understand what they're saying, but like, what people don't always realize too is like that's the only way that the theaters make money, because they don't make money off of the movies themselves. The studios collect most of that money, especially for like the first month that the movie's in the theaters. So like that's the only way they're profiting is by selling expensive popcorn and expensive soda and expensive beer. Like that's just how they profit. So I mean, it sucks. I get it, but like that's a company. Like they're a business too. Like that's how they make their money.
Right, because all the ticket sales go to, when Marvel sold all those tickets, they went to Marvel.
Yeah, nearly all of it, especially for the first like month. And every studio is different with how they do it. I know like Disney's like the worst. Disney's like 6 weeks or something. Like every dollar from the movie, from the ticket itself, for the first like 6 weeks that a movie is in the theater or whatever the time frame is, all of that goes back to the studio. So the only money that the theater is collecting is from concessions. So it's nuts. I do miss theaters. I miss them a lot. Because you brought up, where you are up there in the suburbs and stuff. Griffin Knight, a buddy of ours, and I met up and went to a couple movies over that way, and that was a really nice theater. They had, like a full bar and like not a restaurant, and it wasn't a dine-in theater, but it had like a full menu of like real, like not just like popcorn and hot dogs. So that was cool. I've been to a few nice theaters like that, but I've not been to a dine-in. I do know they exist, but I've not been to one.
Yeah, it depends on where you go. Then in Elmhurst, they have an old school one, like an old school looking one, like the Fisher Theater. Picture the Fisher Theater, but redone.
Right.
It's really cool because it's old school. It's in downtown Elmhurst, which is the size of Urbana, but it's like really cool. This is probably gonna be a dumb question. I keep waiting for Marvel to release Black Widow on Disney Plus. I'm like, just do it, but they won't.
Yeah.
And they keep talking about how they're not gonna do that. They're waiting for the theaters. Are they gonna lose that much money if they stream it?
So this is an interesting topic, and I was waiting to see if you would ask me about this.
I can read you. I know what's going on.
So, I assume you're familiar with what just happened with WB, with Warner Brothers movies and HBO Max. Did you see all this stuff that happened this past week? Basically,
a little bit.
So Warner Brothers, the studio Warner Brothers, who is owned by AT&T, who also owns HBO. So they came out and said, we are going to release every single one of our 2021 movies that's scheduled to come out in 2021. There's like 17 of them. They're all going to come out simultaneously at theaters, if available in your particular market, and on HBO Max. And that's definitely a landmark type of thing. Like that's not been done before. That's definitely going to be a game changer. But I still think the biggest domino here is Black Widow, because Disney can't move forward with their biggest property until they release this movie. So your question was if they're going to lose money on it. Yes, they will absolutely 100%. I don't want to say lose money, but the box office returns that a movie gets, especially a Marvel movie, is huge. Like, we're talking billions of dollars, and that's money they're not going to get. Now, they will get more money because they will get more subscribers on Disney Plus, and that's the way that this industry has gone with Netflix and Hulu and now Disney Plus and HBO Max and all this stuff. Their game now is subscribers and keeping the shareholders happy. Like that's just how they run their business now. As long as Netflix as a company is in so much debt because they're just constantly cranking out and giving millions of dollars to these studios to create these TV shows and these movies. They're giving Martin Scorsese millions of dollars to do The Irishman. And that's great. And they're making money because people are subscribing and they're maintaining their subscriptions, but they're not going to the theater and making millions of dollars at the box office. So, I mean, I'm not an expert when it comes to the finances of this stuff, but yes, I mean, ultimately they're not going to make as much money by putting Black Widow on Disney Plus as they would in the theaters. But unless they want to wait another full, probably almost calendar year, they're probably not going to then release Black Widow. So they have to make a decision at some point. Do we want to release this now and get it out into the world so we can move forward with what we're doing? Because the rest of their movies will not come out until Black Widow does. Or do we want to wait this thing out and hopefully maybe Christmas time next year? Because ultimately that's probably the next big block they're going to have. It's not going to be, I mean, they're talking, we might be vaccinated enough to the point where summertime, but I would question that. I'm not sure if I was Disney that I would want to put my big property in theaters expecting it to make its money in June or July. I still think that's pushing it. I think you're probably looking at about a year from now as being the big window. We'll see what they do. I don't know. It stresses me out just to think about it, but they can't move forward. I mean, they can do other movies. I could see them, they've already done it with Onward and Soul and Mulan and some of these other movies they are putting on, but those movies aren't necessary for them to move their big franchise along. So I've been saying this for the last week since HBO Max made their big announcement that Black Widow is going to be the big domino. Like that's really going to determine how this whole thing goes. Because that's the biggest money-making franchise in the world. So, we'll see.
It's frustrating because I saw someone post, what's the harm of releasing it for charge a lot, which is ridiculous. Charge like $18. And then once you watch it, then once it's watched, kind of like, what's the thing where you used to buy DVDs and it gave you that code and you could get on there? I don't know. There was Voodoo or something.
Digital code. Yeah, that's still a thing. Yeah, digital code. Yeah.
So someone said, why can't you go on Disney Plus? You have to have Disney Plus. That's the first thing. So you're going to get more subscribers because you have to have it. Then why can't you put it on there for $15, $18, whatever? Then once it's watched, you can't watch it again unless you buy it.
Yeah,
now, I know
that's interesting. That's interesting. I hadn't seen that. They tried that model with Mulan. They charged $30 for this movie. Now, I actually just watched Mulan recently, like earlier today, and I had it on while I was doing other stuff. But that movie, it's not a Marvel movie, but that they did do that. I mean, they released that movie in September on Disney Plus. You had to pay $30. You had to have a Disney Plus subscription already, and then you had to pay $30. They tested it. They haven't really announced how well it did. People don't think it actually did very well because they think if it had done well, then they would have done this for Black Widow already. I see what you're saying. I think there's maybe something to that. I mean, that's kind of the thing about this now is there's Disney Plus. Disney doesn't want to. They could put their movie onto just on demand or like Amazon and iTunes where people can just buy it or rent it for $20 like they do with any other movies. But now that they have their own streaming service, they don't want to do that because when they do that, then they have to share that money with iTunes and with Amazon and with Vudu. If they just put it on their service, they don't have to share it. They don't have to share it with theaters. They don't have to share it with the distributors of the digital stuff. It's all going to Disney. So that's what they would want to do if they're going to do it. I don't hate the idea that you mentioned that you saw about the, you pay to rent it for whatever. Because what they did with Mulan was you pay the $30 and it's yours. It's always going to be, well, now, I mean, and then 4 months later, it's on Disney Plus for anybody. So I don't know. There's different ways you can do it. Disney is obviously still shuffling their feet. They're waiting to see what happens with the vaccine and everything. I think what HBO Max and Warner Brothers did is very telling. But we'll see. I don't know if Disney is going to follow in those footsteps with Black Widow. They might with more of their other movies. And they have, obviously, they're Disney. They have other big movies that are coming out. It's supposed to come out in 2021 that they might do that. But like with Soul, which is supposed to be their big movie that they are releasing on Christmas Day, you don't have to pay extra for it. It's just on Disney Plus on Christmas Day. So And that's what HBO Max is doing. They're not going to charge extra for you to watch Wonder Woman or Dune or any, Space Jam. It's going to come out next year. They're not charging extra for it. I don't know. It's just a bunch of trial and error at this point, trying to see what works and what doesn't, and who wants to make the big move. And I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I'm not watching Space Jam. I'm not going to see the second one.
I shouldn't have even said it. I shouldn't have even said it. I knew it.
That's all I'll say about that.
You want to have this discussion, or
man, we have to make a
whole.
whole.
I have a Kobe ornament hanging on my Christmas tree in the other room. Do you want me to go get that for you? Will that make you happier?
I'll go put on my Kobe jersey. I'll get my Kobe jersey on. I have his book up there called Showboat. I'll bring it over here. The Mob of Mentality.
R.I.P.
No, I don't know. I would pay $19 to watch it disappear for 6 months, 8 months.
I would too, and I think a lot of people will. I think the reason, I don't know, they tried it with $30 for Mulan, which seems high if you're just a single person or even a couple wanting to watch a movie. But if you're like a family of 5, $30 to watch a movie is cheap. I mean, when you take a family of 5 to the movie theaters, you're talking spending hundreds of dollars. So, but like for me, trying to justify $30, I mean, I go to the movies a lot, and Allison goes with me, part of the time. So when we go together, it's usually, $25, $30, depending on what we're doing, but that's including popcorn and drinks and all that other stuff. $30 for one person, for 2 people is kind of steep. Also depends on where you live, and because tickets are more expensive in different places and all that stuff. I don't think they'll do it for $20. I think that's what this comes down to. I think if Disney releases Black Widow to the public, if they want to try to profit off it, they're going to have to it's going to have to be more than that. And I think they saw that $30 didn't really work with Mulan. So I don't know I don't know what they'll do. I really don't.
Or is it because it's Mulan and it's not Marvel? Like, would people have bought it more if it's Marvel?
Right. I think that no, you're right. Black Widow would do better in this hypothetical scenario at the $30 price point than what Mulan did. There is no doubt about that. But is it enough for them to justify it? I still think, as I said, I think they're just kind of waiting out to see what happens as we get into 2021. Eventually they're going to have to release it, and I don't know what they're going to do. I think they're just hoping and praying that there's a vaccine and they can have it in the theaters this summer. Again, as I said earlier, I think that's probably pushing it. I don't think that's it. We might have a vaccine and we might be ready to go, but they're not going to make the money they want by putting that movie in the theaters in June or July. They're just not. You're probably looking at best case scenario, probably next Christmas.
Well, then I'm
not saying you won't see it before then, but if they want to put it in the theater and get as much profit off of it as possible, you're probably looking at a year from now at the earliest.
Well, then I just thought of this as we're talking. I think they're afraid because once they do it, what are we all going to expect from now on?
That's the precedent.
Is okay, you release Black Widow. Now we want Doctor Strange to come out.
And this whole thing, I mean, I think movie theaters were, I don't want to say dying. I think that's a strong word, but I think movie theaters were not in great shape even before the pandemic. And I think now they're definitely struggling and will continue to struggle. I heard somebody else say this on a podcast or something the other day. It's a good point. I don't think we're going to see new movie theaters. I think that movie theaters will still exist. And I am on the theory, and somebody else has talked about this before too, but I think it's true. I think what we're going to see is studios purchasing movie theaters. I think you could see Disney running and owning AMC theaters and putting their movies in those theaters. So if you want to watch the next Marvel movie, you have to go to a Disney AMC theater. You can't go to a Regal and see it because somebody else will own that. So like, for example, like Universal might down the road own Regal Theaters, and Disney might own AMC Theaters. I could see that being a thing. So if you want to go see Fast and the Furious 15, you'd have to go to a Regal. And if you want to see Avengers 7, you'll have to go to an AMC. I think that's the direction theaters are going to head at some point. What that means for right now, obviously we don't really know. Everything's kind of up in the air. But what they want to do with some of these movies, I don't know. But now, I mean, with Disney's, with their TV shows and stuff that they're putting on Disney Plus, I mean, that's going to change everything too, because they're going to start cranking those out. Because the thing about the MCU too is there's so much continuity. I mean, this is a long timeline of things, and you can't. Some things might be revealed in one thing, so you can't. They can't release. They won't release Hawkeye, the new Hawkeye show, before they release Black Widow, because Black Widow introduces the new character that's going to be in Hawkeye. So there's a lot of that in play here too, where Disney has Black Widow has to come out. They're already going to have WandaVision out before Black Widow, so apparently there's no issues continuity wise with that. But who knows after WandaVision with these other TV shows, what sort of continuity issues they're going to have if they don't release Black Widow, because they were supposed to release all 4 of those shows, like WandaVision and Hawkeye and Loki and Falcon Winter Soldier were like all supposed to come out in like the next 12 months. So the longer you push off Black Widow, the further it's going to be that you can put some of these shows on Disney Plus. So it's a long game of trying to figure out what the best solution for them is. I do think at some point they're going to have to just put it out there onto Disney Plus. I just think so. I don't know what they'll charge for it, if they'll charge anything. They might go the HBO route and say it's going to be in theaters if you can go. If not, it's going to be on Disney Plus. I could see them doing that. I don't like it, but unfortunately, they're about to run out of options. So,
well, I was getting ready. I had something I forgot. Well, because like you said, they said Black Widow is supposed to set up what's about to happen, even though it's taking place between Civil War and Infinity War. It's in that in between. But is it going to affect other things? And then I just want to see David Harbour. I'm a big David Harbour fan. I was so excited. He's in Marvel.
Yeah.
That's why in Stranger Things he was gone for so long. He had to go help out with that or something. I don't know. But
I wish we would have got the next Stranger Things season. I had this theory, and I don't know that it was true. I never saw anything that confirmed it, but I had. That's good. I had this. My theory was that the next Stranger Things season was going to be Christmas themed, because they've done 4th of July themed, and they've been kind of theming their seasons around holidays. And so when they showed the snow, I know it was Russia, but like it just made sense, like timing wise, like release this around Christmas time. So I don't know that for sure. It may not have been supposed to be then, but it makes me kind of sad to think that we still don't have it, because they never finished filming because of pandemic. So
they're filming right now, I think.
Yeah, they are. They finally picked it back up. But the problem with that show is that it's kids. And the longer you wait, these kids aren't kids anymore. I mean, you have to bang those shows out, because that's the cuteness of the kids we're talking with here. And they're not kids anymore. I mean, they're teenagers, and they're teenagers with attitude, to quote a different TV show. So I love David Harbour too. I'm excited to see him in Black Widow, and that's going to set up, because the Florence Pugh character is supposed to be in Hawkeye, so that's going to set things up. So yeah, I mean, obviously they're okay with putting out WandaVision ahead of it, and they might be okay with putting out something else ahead of it, but eventually you're going to run into those continuity issues. So I don't know what their game plan is. As I said, I don't know that they're going to be able to have a full profit on it anytime before Christmas next year. I just don't. Maybe. I could be totally wrong. As I said, I'm not an expert, but that's my theory.
Yeah, you're probably right. They're probably waiting to the last moment when we're pissed, and then they're thinking in their mind, well, like, I had to get Disney Plus because of quarantine, and because I knew WandaVision and all that stuff. Like, I was like, I cannot watch.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah,
I can't wait for Doctor Strange. I love Benedict Cumberbatch, so I was like, I can't wait for the next Doctor Strange. But in order to know what happens, I have to watch WandaVision.
Yeah.
And then the next Avengers, I have to know what happens in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I have to know Hawkeye. Like, it's just I have to know
They
before
have
you
us
go watch
so
it.
roped in. We are
I
so
know.
roped into this universe.
I
And now
know. And
you have
then
to see every show, you have to watch every movie. I mean, even now, I do think that some of the luster will die off. I think it was going to die off anyway after Endgame. I think that was for a lot of people. I think that was kind of like a good, okay, I've had enough point. But now with the pandemic, who knows what it'll be after this? But I'm still 100% on board. But I know
I'm I'm
it'll
on
change.
board. I'm on board. I'm just afraid it's not going to be as good because, well, like it's going to be
No,
good. It's
probably
just going to
not.
be it's going to be different because
It'll
like,
be different.
and it's going to like externals. Like that's another one that's supposed to come out. Like
Yeah,
what's supposed to happen there? When can you release that? Uh,
yeah.
they're
I don't
they're
know.
going to start filming Doctor Strange here soon. He said. Benedict said.
Yeah,
I say his first name like I know him. He said they're
Mr.
going to start filming.
Cumberbatch.
Oh, I'm such a big fan. That's why I asked another football. There's a football coach who's a big Marvel guy, and I said, "What's your most? What's the worst Marvel movie? Like the most one that you didn't like or something?" And he said, "This is what he told me. He said the Iron Man 2 and 3 he wasn't a big fan of.
Yeah.
He said he loved Black Panther. He just didn't like when it came out, like the order it came out in. He said the way we got it in that order, he didn't like the way it came out. And I can't remember all that back when.
It came after Civil War because we got introduced to T'Challa during Civil War. I mean, it was timing wise, it was right, but I don't know. I mean, I get that. There's been, people have made comments about, the release order of some of these things, but I saw somebody make a comment the other day, which now that I think about it, is really true. But they should have, because Spider-Man they had teased Spider-Man in the trailer for Civil War, but somebody's made the comment, and I agree with it. They shouldn't have showed us that. They should have just let Spider-Man be a surprise when he just shows up, during Civil War. But they gave us the trailer for it anyway. But yeah, I mean, I can agree with some of that in terms of order and stuff. But I think Thor: The Dark World is kind of universally known as like the worst Marvel movie. Like, just kind of accepted that's like, I mean, Incredible Hulk is like
Oh,
this stepchild. It's kind of just like it doesn't really fit. So it's the the black sheep of the family. But I think Thor: The Dark World is kind of like understood as like the worst. Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3 especially is not very good. But other than that, they've had a pretty good run of pretty solid movies for the most
yeah.
part.
I don't even know if I consider Hulk a part of it anymore because it's so
There's
bad.
not much tied into it. There's a couple tie-ins, but obviously it's a different actor and it's a different studio and it just feels different. The only reason it's still tied in is that there's still a couple connections
Well,
that
like,
are like necessary for the story, but it's nothing major.
yeah, I mean, they might show the girlfriend again or something, and then in that movie when Tony shows up and talks to the
Yeah,
what's his face, the whoever, and he'll be a part of Black Widow too. So I think that's another tie-in.
yeah.
Um, I don't even consider that a part of it. And then I said the most underrated ones were Ant-Man's. I love those ones.
I love both the Ant-Mans. They're
They don't
funny.
get love.
They're comedies,
Well,
and
Paul Rudd, you have
Paul
to.
Rudd's great.
Yeah, they're
I
underrated.
They're great. The first Guardians is my favorite, and it will probably always be my favorite. The second one I didn't love as much, but also like that's a comedy. I saw this, and somebody made this point, and I kind of agree to it. Like, I've kind of wondered the last like 10 years, comedies haven't really been what they were. Like at the end of the last decade, you had the Hangover movies, and you had Wedding Crashers. Like there was a long line of really good comedies, and then the last 10 years, they really kind of went away. Like we didn't have those big comedy movies like we had in like the late 2000s. But somebody made the comment like some of the Marvel movies are comedies. I mean, that's where like Ant-Man and Guardians and Ragnarok, like those movies are comedies.
Right.
That's a lot of where the comedies came the last 10 years was through that universe. But all those movies are kind of different. Like Ant-Man is like a comedy heist movie, and the new Doctor Strange movie is going to be like a horror movie almost, and Winter Soldier is like a spy espionage movie. The Spider-Man movies are like teenage high school comedies, you know. That's kind of what I really like about what they've done is like they're all kind of different. They just all tie in together, you know, to some extent with characters and stuff. But big fan, man. Big fan.
And then one of the ones that I don't think gets enough love is Doctor Strange. I love Doctor Strange.
I like Doctor Strange.
Now, I blame Brad for this. Brad said that was like one of his favorite movies at one point. So when I was catching up before Infinity War, before Infinity War, I was trying to catch up, and I watched it. And since Brad had hyped it up so much, I was expecting like Civil War type movie, like this big movie, and it wasn't. So I was like, Brad, you son of a bitch! Like it's not that good. So I had to watch it again, and I was like, okay, now I see it. Like now I see because Benedict Cumberbatch, like, my favorite's probably Infinity War because it has everybody in it besides Ant-Man. And I love Benedict Cumberbatch, and he's a huge role in it. So I'm like, I like this movie. And when I watched Thor Ragnarok for the first time, I didn't like it. I was like, this is Dark World all over again. I didn't like it. I did not like it.
Ragnarok.
I did not like it. I felt like the comedy was pushed for some reason, like they were trying really hard. And then again, I had to go watch. It's kind of like Step Brothers. I hated Step Brothers in theaters all those years ago.
Yeah.
But then I had to watch it again and again. I was like, okay, now I see it. Ragnarok, I had to watch it.
Some movies just grow on you better than others. I get it. I like Doctor Strange. I mean, it's not my favorite of the universe or anything, but there's a lot of good to it. He's a great character, and I'm excited to see what they do, you know, with his next one, for sure.
Yeah, they said horror, and I was like, oh, not a horror person.
Yeah, I don't know. They keep throwing that word out. I don't know that it's necessarily going to be a horror movie, but it's probably going to have some horror-ish manners to it. But we'll see. Sam Raimi's going to do it, who did the original Spider-Man trilogy, and those first two Spider-Man movies were really good. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of theories out there that because of that connection and the multiverse thing, that they're going to, you know, bring back Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and have this whole Spider-Verse thing, and we'll see what happens. I think people are just looking for something to talk about. But
then I saw somewhere, and again, this is pandemic talk, like this might be the last Doctor Strange. This might be his way out. Like he might leave because Benedict Cumberbatch doesn't have this long contract or something.
Yeah.
And so it was talked about like he might make an appearance in this WandaVision. They might talk about him. He might show up actually, and then this movie will happen, and then he might leave. Then I also seen where he might be the leader of the new Avengers, who we have no idea where he might be the guy.
I don't know. I think they had plans in place, but I think some things have happened out of their control. Some of them more unfortunate than others that I think have changed some of their plans. So Marvel might be making some changes here before too long with some of these movies, I think.
I gotta catch up with DC. I'm not gonna get on that, but I have to catch up. You're
not missing much.
Well, I think it's because Marvel ruined it because Marvel was so good.
Yep.
The way Marvel's filmed, it's so much lighter and brighter. You watch DC, it's this dark tone.
Yep.
The only reason why I'm gonna get back into it is because The Rock's coming in as Black Adam. So I'm like,
yeah, I think Marvel and Kevin Feige have done so well at what they do that they have made other major franchises look bad. They, you know, I'm not going to say that. Are you a Star Wars person?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, you know, are hating on The Last Jedi, which I get. It wasn't a great movie. Part of me wonders, though, had we not had this 10-year run of near perfection from the Marvel universe, that we would care so much about some of these issues when Star Wars. But we've had such great continuity, and Kevin Feige has controlled every little, you know, all these connections with all these movies. So then when like the Star Wars movies comes out and they have all these different directors and there's no continuity, and J.J. Abrams is doing one thing, and then, you know, Rian Johnson comes in and does all these other things to change everything, and then J.J. Abrams comes back and changes everything back. Like, I'm not going to defend that because it's stupid and it sucked how they did all that, but I don't think it would look as bad had we not just had this great run from Marvel. And I think a lot of that plays over to DC too. I don't think all those movies are all that terrible, but I think it's because Marvel has done so well at producing hit after hit after hit and having all this continuity and all these stories that tie in together. And DC's just struggling to keep the same Batman. It's just, it's just kind of DC changed the game when they had the Batman trilogy, the Chris Nolan Batman trilogy. I mean, that was the Spider-Man trilogy, and then the Batman trilogy really kind of relaunched superhero movies. But then ever since then, DC struggled. I mean, Wonder Woman's really good, the first one, and I'm really excited about the second one. They've had some other things. I mean, there's the whole thing with the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League. I don't know how that's going to be. The original Suicide Squad wasn't very good. I enjoyed it as just an enjoyment standpoint. It wasn't very good, but now they're rebooting that too with James Gunn. And I mean, they're just struggling for continuity and trying to figure things out. They're still making a lot of money. People still enjoy their movies, but compared to what Marvel has done, it's not the same. It's hard to compare them.
And aren't they sort of copying Marvel and how they release their movies?
Yeah, but I think they have to. I mean, they see what Marvel's doing and how well it's doing, and that's their formula. And so, yeah, of course they're going to.
Well, and then I've kept on here a long time, and I'll try to not anymore.
No, you're good.
But because they kept saying Marvel's so big, where's The Rock? Where's so and so? And The Rock has his own production thing, that $5 or $7 production, and so he met with Marvel and them, and he wanted some input, and they said no. You come to Marvel, we tell you everything. So this Black Adam, The Rock is helping produce it. DC gave up power to him to do this.
Yeah.
And so they're hoping that The Rock is going to revamp this. I've always wanted to watch Shazam, and I haven't.
It was good. Shazam was good. It was surprisingly good. But I think too, and another Aquaman wasn't bad either. But I think, as I said, and as you touched on, I just think that we compare these movies to what Marvel's doing, and it's not the same. It's just hard to compare it. Disney is always, and you talked about the whole thing with Dwayne Johnson. Disney has always had full control over their productions. They very rarely give full control to somebody else. And so I can see that, Kevin Feige wanted to have full control over this universe and everything, and whatever, he's going to DC. I'm sure it'll make millions of dollars. There's no doubt about it. And just like all their other movies do. I just think they still struggle to keep it up with critics and with people just enjoying it and continuity and all that stuff. We'll see what happens with that though, but that's a few years down the road, I think now.
Well, The Rock could help him fix it too. If his production company gets involved with DC, I'm not saying they're going to be Marvel, but maybe they can bring something in.
I don't what has his company produced though? I mean, I know they make a lot of money, but it's not like he's producing, movies that are
it's co-producing,
well received.
Yeah, I think
Fighting with My Family was I'm pretty sure he was involved in that because that was also WWE produced that, but that was good. I enjoyed that movie a lot.
That's a good movie.
And I'm not a big wrestling guy. That was just a random movie I went to see on a Sunday afternoon, and that was an enjoyable time. I love The Rock. I mean, he's funny, he's charismatic, he's great on screen. He would have been great in the MCU, but that's fine.
Could you imagine him as Thor or Thanos? They wouldn't have to do a computer thing. They wouldn't have to do a computer thing. He could have walked out there and...
He's a little too much, though. I think The Rock is The Rock. And Marvel has done a good job about bringing in big-time actors, but they're not actors that are so well-known that they can't be seen as something else.
That's true.
I mean, at the time, maybe Robert Downey Jr. was, but he was in such a bad place with his career that he needed that. So now, like, Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. And, yes, Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans, Chris Pratt. Jesus, how many Chris's are there? Yes, they do bring in big names, but like The Rock is on a different level. Like The Rock is The Rock, and he's always going to be The Rock. It's hard to watch Dwayne Johnson in a movie on screen and not see Dwayne Johnson.
Right. Well, you're talking about his production. If you watch all the movies he's been in recently, you're going to see that Bucks production in there. It pops up. Yeah. So like, that is Hobbs and Shaw. They made that.
I'm sure they were doing the Jumanjis and all that stuff too.
So I mean, they've done good things.
No, yeah, absolutely.
It was just funny how I'll come in if you let me do things, and Marvel's like, no, we got this.
No, Marvel is the only studio that produces Marvel movies. Like they don't need financial help from anybody else. They obviously bring in directors to have their own, spin on it to do it themselves. But they're not bringing in other production companies. They don't need to. They don't want to. They're fine with doing it themselves, and they don't.
Did you see where, I don't know if this is true, I need to look it up again. I saw a snippet of Disney talked about buying AMC.
The theater?
No, like the TV channel where Walking Dead and they're on. Talked about owning that because of AMC Plus with that stream thing they've got. I think they want to buy it to take over.
Probably.
And they're going to own my Walking Dead. They're going to own it.
Is that show still on?
It is. Now, that's what I was going to ask you. I'm wrapping this up. I know. Walking Dead is one of the most underrated shows. Now, I also know it's been on for 10 years.
It's been on for a long time. Yeah.
Well, they just finished.
I watched it early, but I haven't seen it for several seasons.
It just finished up its 10th season, but due to the pandemic hit, they had the season finale filmed, but they hadn't put it together yet. It was filmed. They hadn't had any sound to it or nothing. So we didn't get it for months. And then we finally got it. Well, because of the pandemic, things changed. Just like Marvel, things changed the Walking Dead universe. Well, let me phrase this. So you have The Walking Dead. You had a spinoff, Fear the Walking Dead. And then now you have another spinoff, the World Beyond. Now they all are starting to tie together.
Right.
Because you had some characters from The Walking Dead now go to Fear. The World Beyond is only going to be 2 seasons because they're supposed to be movies. They're making this movie that's supposed to tie everything together. And then off this season 10, there's supposed to be another spinoff. So they're trying to grow this. But because of the pandemic, each Walking Dead season is 16 episodes. Because of the pandemic, they are giving us an extra 6 episodes on to season 10. We're going to get those in February. They were able to go to Georgia and start filming. Then there's supposed to be season 11, and that's it. They're going to be done with The Walking Dead after that. But it's supposed to be like 20-some episodes. The pandemic kind of ramped everything up.
Yeah.
Because of how long this is taking. Now, going back to my point, because the one coach I have, he's a big TV guy, Marvel, whatever. And I said something about The Walking Dead. And he goes, I watched it up to like season 3 or 4, and I was just kind of done. And I said, season 4 and 5 are the best ones. Season 3, 4, and 5 are the best. And then what hurt The Walking Dead was season 7 and 8. Those were the 2 worst.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan shows up, and they're blaming Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I'm like, it wasn't him. It's the storyline.
Yeah.
Season 7 and season 8 in our world is 2 years. In the Walking Dead world, it was a month, if that. Like a timeline, maybe.
And
it was so the main actor, Andrew Lincoln, that's kind of why he wanted to leave. It was because how bad the story was. And then
I hate when shows do that.
And then they promoted the guy to be like the main guy. So they brought in new writers and stuff. And this new person that took over, season 9 just brought it back to what it was. Season 10 brought it back to what it was. Now it's good again. But Fear is tying into it. This World Beyond is tying into it. Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan. He plays Negan. Oh, he's such a great actor for that. And it's funny. My nerd is coming out. You see the movie Rampage with him and
Yeah.
The Rock. He was filming The Walking Dead and filming that at the same time. So when you watch the interviews with him and The Rock, Jeffrey D. Morgan has that long beard when they're interviewing him afterwards, he had to grow that for The Walking Dead. He was growing that for that. And we didn't know if he was supposed to be alive or not. So I kind of gave it away of like if he was there.
Right.
He said he was filming Negan. Now, Neganisms, he leans a lot when he talks on The Walking Dead. He has his bat and he's like leaning. He said when he watched Rampage, you could see him doing that on Rampage when he talks. He has that smirk and he's talking from the side of his smirk. He's leaning because he was like, oh, that's Negan. And then when he was going back and forth. He was going to Chicago, then he'd go back to Georgia, and then he's going back to Chicago, go back to Georgia. So it's funny. He's like, if you ever watch that movie again, watch it. He leans when he talks. Next time it's on TV, he's like leaning, and he smiles, and he's talking from the side because Negan does that on the show.
Yeah.
And he does that little like twitchy smile too. And he's like, oh, he told The Rock, he's like, oh, I'm acting like Negan the way he talks. It's funny.
That's good. Yeah, I watched that a little bit early on. I never really got into it, but AMC, I mean, they obviously they need that show. Like that's after Breaking Bad went off the air, like Walking Dead is their show. So I mean, they'll keep that going as long as they can. Franchises will do that. I mean, it's just Walking Dead is one of the best. It's one of the top TV franchises of the last decade. Whatever people think about it, how good it is, it's it's popular and people like it, and you can build a whole world around it. So they'll keep it going as long as they can. I don't think if Disney takes over, I don't think they'll get rid of it. But
I don't know how long it's going to go for. Well, season 11 is the last one for the main one, but you're going to have these small spin-offs off of it.
They'll keep the spin-offs going.
I don't know how long that'll go. Like
what Breaking Bad's doing. Better Call Saul's in I don't know how many seasons of that show. I mean, it's just a spin-off of
season 6. I think they're filming season 6 right now. I don't know if they're filming, but that's the last one. That's supposed to be the end. But The Walking Dead, I don't know how these spinoffs are going to work because Fear was okay the second and third season. Season 4, they brought in a character from The Walking Dead, and the first half of the season was good. Then it went to shit. I wanted it to be done. I was like, Fear sucked. It was all I watch every Sunday night. It has to be Sunday night. I watch it. I couldn't do it. I was like, I'll just record it. I never do that. I have to watch it. Now the season 5 of Fear is really good all of a sudden. They brought in new writers again, so it's good all of a sudden. No. Season 4, second half of season 4 was bad. Season 5 was just terrible. Just god awful. I never even finished it. They're on season 6 of Fear right now, and I don't even know what happened in season 5. Like at the end, I was like, I don't care because I don't like it. But season 6 is acting like The Walking Dead. They brought like the horror click back to it. Supposed to be season 7. They signed for season 7 already for that one.
Wow.
So you have a spin-off of it about to go 7 seasons.
Yeah.
But it's tied together. You're finally hearing how they're tied. Because at first it was just 2 different worlds.
Yeah.
Now that you brought these characters over, they're starting to talk about each other. Like the spin-off is talking about the main show now. Like they're bringing up characters from that main show.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, if you ever do watch, I don't want to ruin what happens in The Walking Dead to start these movies. But something happens. This third spin-off is tying into those movies. Kind of like what WandaVision is going to do. Like it's going to tie into the Doctor Strange. And then off the main Walking Dead, Norman Reedus is supposed to go off and do his own spin-off of Walking Dead. So like it just, I don't think they're going to last after that.
Steve, as long as people keep watching them, they'll keep cranking them out.
I'm the only one. I'm the only one watching, I think.
Well, you might be. Then they're doing it just for you.
I mean, I hope so. I want to meet Norman Reedus, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan, but come on. Because I talk to people.
One day they can be on your show.
I always ask people like The Walking Dead. I know everybody can hear Hazel barking. I don't care. Talk about The Walking Dead, and they're like, "No, I haven't watched that since season 4." And I'm like,
"Yeah, I didn't really get into that one. I haven't watched as many TV shows the last 5 or 6 years, just because I've been so absorbed with movies." And my life, during the summer times has been totally absorbed by work. So it's been hard for me to like get into a lot of, there's a few shows I follow and I'll binge some shows on Netflix. And I think binging culture has just changed how you watch TV shows anyway. I mean, you don't really get that much appointment viewing anymore. I mean, at least they're starting to bring it back. Like the Mandalorians, they're bringing that stuff back where it's appointment viewing, where you have to watch it on that day. But yeah, that definitely changed how we watch TV shows for sure. But yeah, just like the last 10 or so years, I watched Breaking Bad, but it wasn't until very recently that I, kind of binged through that whole thing. And Lost was another one that I, kind of did recently. And I might get into The Walking Dead at some point. I just haven't done it yet.
It's on Netflix. Go for it. It's there.
A lot of stuff's on Netflix.
Well, we binged Lucifer.
Okay.
It's a good one where he's the devil and he lives among humans, and it's good. Yeah. Then I watched The Office and Parks and Rec. I never watched it before to the pandemic.
Now they're going to be off of Netflix, so
Parks and Rec's already gone.
Yeah, it's a good thing you got it in when you did.
And
Allison hadn't seen The Office either. We did that during the pandemic. We started Parks and Rec, and then we kind of I had already watched it a couple times, but we kind of got off of it, and then we watched New Girl instead. And we're doing Schitt's Creek now. We've done more sitcoms than we'd have any of the other stuff, at least just when we're watching the two of us. And then most of my time when I'm not watching that is movies or sports. I mean, pretty much some video games and stuff. But
I'm chewing gum just for you. I never chew gum anymore. I'm just chewing gum just for you.
For the record, for all the audience out there, every day in high school, anybody would come up to Steve and just ask him for a stick of gum, and you always had a pack of gum on you, always.
And the one time I didn't, nobody spoke to me for a week.
That was your thing, man. You just always had gum. I love it.
Because my dad is cheap, so if we bought gum, it had to be the big ones. He's like, economically, this makes more sense. So if he wants effing gum, this is what we're gonna buy.
It was great. You're the most popular guy in school.
The tallest guy in school. That's about it.
Well, yes, you were the tallest. And you're only, what are you, 6'5"? It's crazy now in my adult life to think about that you were the tallest kid in school. But actually, you probably always were the tallest kid in school. We weren't. Was there one person that was taller than us? Taller than you?
I think
Anderson Scott, but he was a few years older. I don't think he was in school.
Lagaki twins, I think, were an inch taller too.
They might have had you by. Yeah, okay. But yeah, thinking back on it, 6'5", yeah, you're tall, but there's people in the world that are taller than you. But yeah, you were the tallest kid in school, always.
Oh, I'll wrap this up
from the very beginning to the end of time.
I said I wrapped this up 10 minutes ago, and we're still going. So yeah, being 6'5" at Oakwood is tall. I played center. Then we had to go play Bismarck and them, who had centers. So at Lombard East, we played East St. Louis the second round of the playoffs for football.
Yeah.
I knew they were big. I knew they were fast. We walked on the field. Their corner and I looked eye to eye to each other.
Their corner? Holy crap. Okay. Yeah. That's tall. That's tall for a DB. That's funny.
They brought 6 or 7 every time because they could.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah,
I can at least sit here
and you were tall, but
I talked when I talked to Coach Allball. He was the head coach at Milford our senior year when we went there and lost by a point. So I said, "Thanks a lot for that, Coach Allball." And he goes, "Well, you guys were big as hell." He goes, "Oakwood's always big."
Were we big?
Yeah, me, Weddle, Warren, Panko.
Those guys. Those were big guys. Yeah, that's true.
Then before that, you had Davis or Travis Davis and all of them. Before
Travis Davis wasn't that big.
He wasn't tall, but he
was
big.
Short.
He was short. He might have been short, but he was big.
Yeah, you're right.
And he was a mean bitch.
Yeah, he was. Oh man, those were the days.
He was like, "You guys were big," and I started to think about it, and I was like, I'm going to keep my mouth shut about who was slow and worthless, even though they were big.
Don't live in the past, Steve. Don't live.
No, but it's just funny. It's weird how the world comes around to where he was the head coach at Milford and I was a player. Yeah. And then he goes, "Thanks, I'm old now. Thanks a lot for making me think of 2008 and 9 as." Because that's the only time Milford was relevant before 8-man football was him.
Right. I remember.
Because then he went to Champaign Central after that.
Yeah. Really good team.
See, again, I forgot. Oh, but we're talking about tall at Oakwood. Like 6'5" is tall for Oakwood. Then I see East St. Louis. Who would have known a guy from Oak? I know Cameron did good things, but for me personally, I was like, I coached against East St. Louis. Who is East St. Louis? They kicked our ass, but we scored on them. We weren't supposed to.
That's good.
I'll tell you anything. Our team that year, we went 10-1. We only gave up 6 points a game, and we averaged 42. They scored 53. And we scored 7.
Okay.
They scored in 3 plays. We scored in like 10 plays, I think.
Yeah.
And we weren't supposed to. So
That's a
Darren,
good
the
team.
head coach there, threw his headset down and was pissed. Their nose guard was as tall as Travis Davis, but looked like Dwayne Johnson. Had to walk like this. Had to walk like this. And we had a sophomore guard, and he picked him up in the air and slammed him. And I'm coaching O-line. He comes over, and his eyes are this big. And I said, "We lost him. I can't talk him out of this one." Seth Moody did that to me sophomore year. Seth Moody picked me up and slammed me.
Yeah.
Denhart comes over, and he goes, "Oh."
I remember, and don't take this the wrong way, because this is kind of funny when I think about it. But because you were never very aggressive. Like, that was just like, you were always just a big guy, but you were just like never super aggressive. And I will never forget, it was either our junior or senior year. And I obviously I didn't play football, but I was at nearly every game. And I will never forget, I was watching a game from the stands. It was a road game. I don't remember where we were, but it was our freshman or sophomore year. I don't remember. But it was like on a kickoff or something, kickoff return. I don't know. And I remember watching you, like, you went after somebody, but behind you, I think it might have been both Rutledges, just shot straight for whoever you were going for. It just flew past you. It just like leveled this kid. It was just funny to see, because like you were so large and you just weren't like as aggressive as some people. Like those were two, like just a couple sophomores. They were just looking to get out there and just hit somebody as hard as they could. And they just took off and nailed this kid.
It wasn't aggressive unless it was in a 3-yard radius. Yeah, so once we got past that 3 yards, I wasn't going after you.
Oh, and you definitely had an edge. You had an edge, and you had a temper to you. But just when it comes to like just pure aggressiveness, yeah, that wasn't probably your strength. I just remember seeing it, just a couple, like just a little sophomore that just darting across the field just to level somebody, and you're just out there like, oh, I'll get there. I'll get there when I get there.
Well, and to defend myself, just a hair. If we're on kickoff return, I was just playing defensive line. So I'm standing out there tired to begin with.
I know.
I'm like,
I know.
But then I see them, and I'm like, they got this. Don't worry about it.
It was funny. It was just funny to think about.
And in practice,
no, you've done well for yourself, Steve. I'm definitely proud of you and what you've been able to do, and you're becoming quite the man in the high school ranks at the coaching position. So,
well, I'm trying to. We have 2 turf fields at this school. It's pretty nice.
That's definitely a step up from Vermilion County, for sure.
Going to coach at Lombard East, and then going to East Aurora, where it was a struggling program, but they have 4,000 kids in their school. It's a low-income school, but like to see that, and then I'm at Addison. Addison, I compare to Champaign Central, like 1,800 kids, all diverse. Yeah. It's walks of life. It's surrounded by trees, so I feel like I'm at home. You know, like at Oakwood, it's surrounded by trees, and then it's right near O'Hare. So I need to take a picture of this. If we ever have a season and I have practice, I'm gonna take a picture.
Okay.
The airplanes fly like right over us. It's quite the scene.
Yeah.
Because we're only like 15 minutes from O'Hare over there. So it's like, because I live in Naperville, which is farther west. So I got to go to. The only reason why I went to Addison is because they're paying me more. I've never been paid so much to coach football until I went there. Let's just put it this way: if I coach 3 sports out in that direction, I'll make over about $20,000 just coaching sports.
Wow.
Working on it. But it took me a long time to get there. They had to call Charleston and say, well, how long was he a paid coach? And then they take that in consideration. So like they're bringing me on year like 7 of pay. Oh, but Andy Rutledge, speaking of that, my senior year, our senior year, they were sophomores. Andy is really fast.
Yeah.
So our offensive line coach, Coach Sandifer, would always put him at defensive end against me. Yeah. And every beginning of practice, Andy would beat me because why? He's fast.
He's fast.
And then they'd break a foot off in my ass about not getting to him. So I'd get really mad. And I would look at somebody and be like, can you just bump him really quick? So they bump, and then I pick up Andy and slam him. And I'm like, would you quit making me look fucking bad? Because I can't take it. Because I could kind of keep up with him, but I couldn't do it the whole time because he's so fast.
He's been a thorn in your side your entire life.
Yeah, but a good thorn. Like it's that one that doesn't get infected.
Until then.
And then we had to double team him, and I put him on the ground again. He goes, I'm done. Not saying Andy was weak by any means. Andy wasn't weak by any means. No. But that was the year I was 300 pounds. I put on weight. I was 300 pounds.
You're a big boy.
And he was like, I'm done. I won't do it again.
That's good. That's a good story. Good stuff, man.
He still talked about it once in a while. He'd be like, you remember when you kicked my ass?
That's funny.
And he has to remind me of that. And I'm like, oh, yeah. You made me look bad. Like, I'm 300 pounds and you're 145, 150 pounds running. Sopping wet. All right. Well, we can wrap it up. We went very long. It was some rabbit holes.
We can do it again sometime.
Well, guys, first of all, we're going to thank Logan for showing up. This is the first episode that's not coaching.
Well, you have your Illini show.
Well, is that really coaching? Does Illinois really coach football?
Well, no, I'm saying like that's not a coaching show.
Well, that's true. But like this one is the reason why I call it the Coach Steve Show is to open the door up for other things.
Right. Hey, I'm not going to be a guest that's going to tell you how. I'm not going to talk about the X's and O's, but if you just want to talk sports in general or talk movies, whatever, I'm your guy, man. I'm your guy.
I had a question for you and I can't remember.
I guess you'll have to save it for the next show.
I'll save it for the next one. So, Logan, thank you. Guys out there listening, thank you. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Thanks, Steve.